Okay, we've reached the year 2008. That was the year where, after sitting at home for 10 years in retirement, I decided to wear my Shawn Michaels zebra striped hat to wrestling shows. Um, and nothing memorable about the month of January. Actually, I do remember. I'm sorry. January 26th. Yes, that was the date. January 26th, NYWC presented Sideshow. And I remember, I forgot what match was going on. People noticed me wearing that aforementioned HBK hat. And somebody was singing All I Want for Christmas is a Shawn Michaels hat instead of singing for their two front teeth. February 16th of that year, Jersey All Pro Wrestling. She, they had a show in Rahway, New Jersey, and that very night, that very night, Mickey Rourke was in the building filming a scene for The Wrestler. And also sitting right next to me that night was Elaine Simon, who wrestles. I forgot her ring name right now. She mostly wrestles down in Florida, of course. She and former NYWC competitor Hotshot Mike Reed. I forgot how long they've been a couple. The following week, which was February 23rd, was NYWC Psycho Funkin' Circus. And that night I got to get a picture with Terry Funk and Jerry Lynn. And also, before the show, I don't know who did this, but somebody had brought balloons, and everybody was like hitting them around the room before the show started, like they were volleyballs and stuff. Eventually, they were popped and such. Let's see. March. Okay, April. Yes. April 19th, 2008, my brother and I go to Jersey All Pro Wrestling down in Rahway, New Jersey. When I got off the train, I had to really use the bathroom. And I'm thinking maybe they already opened up the door, but I get to the building, they hadn't opened up yet, so I decided to make my way back to the train station and get to the bathrooms that are inside the waiting room. And while my brother and I both had to use it, my brother was waiting sitting in the waiting room, waiting for me to come out. But I guess the custodian or bathroom attendant, he's telling everybody in the bathroom, outside, because he had to, lock up for the night. I mean, I get he had to lock up for the night, and even said to someone, "You want me to call the police?" And let me tell you something. That guy, I guess. I mean, I can understand it, but at the same time, does he want people to come out of the bathroom without finishing? Come out of the bathroom without washing their hands? Come out of the bathroom, without wiping themselves? Come out of the bathroom with something dangling out their backsides? I know it sounds gross, but I'm sure you figure, I say, where's the damn consideration? This guy should have some consideration. You can't make everybody get out of the stalls or the stalls and get out of there without washing their hands. My goodness. Okay, the following, I'm sorry, May 10th, 2008, Ring of Honor had their first ever show at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, and thanks to Jim Boy Star, who I met along the way, he had a internet radio program. This is way before podcasts came along, and he had like a free ticket, and he offered me to go to sit with him for that show. Okay, let's see. From there, all right, June 28th of 2008, Jersey All Pro Wrestling had a show in Jersey City, and there was a match pitting Christian against Jimmy Rave, and there were these, I don't know if they were just teenagers and such, but there were like so many people screaming and so loud for Christian. I remember somebody posted on their old message board that it sounded like they were having seizures for him. That was also the year where I had created the NYWC message board. Let's see. That was in 2008. Well, this is 2008 I'm still working on. Of course, I already mentioned in another video about meeting where I met John Kerr, Shane, Jim Lundis, and the departed Crusher Dugan the night King Mega became NYWC champion, defeating Mikey Whipwreck. November 15th, 2008, Jersey All Pro Wrestling ran in Jersey City, New Jersey. And that very night, there was a guy wrestling by the name of Don Juan. And there was this one lady I used to know at this event. Don Juan came up to where she was, and I guess he decided to give her a lap dance of sorts. And she was screaming, "No, I don't like him!" And that happened. I didn't see it happen right then and there, but you know, I remember Tony Kalman and a few other people. They were having a laugh about that. And that lady eventually would complain to me, "Oh, he's got sweaty balls and sweaty ass." But basically, you know, the guy just wrestled a match underneath those hot lights. He's not going to smell nice and fresh like he just got out of the shower now. And that was also the night I ended up meeting Jasmine, who I don't know if she still lives near that building in Jersey City or not. December 27th of 2008, Ring of Honor presented Final Battle, and that very night, Austin Aries went one-on-one with Tyler Black, who we know is Seth Rollins. And this was the night where I think Jimmy Jacobs had turned on Tyler and aligned himself with Aries. And what happened was Aries was walking up the aisle, and one of the fans did something. And Aries, grabbed the fan and got physical, and referee Paul Turner had to detain the fan so before security came running over and, de-escalated the predicament and ultimately showed that guy the door. And many times when Paul Turner would referee at ROH shows, the fans in New York City would chant, "Next World Champ." And the guy who was thrown out, he tried to pull a fast one. He had emailed a picture that he claimed was the result of Aries attacking him. And when somebody would email him back saying, "Hey, is this really you?" the guy never responded. Turned out the photo that he submitted, turned out the guy was the photo. Somebody Googled the photo, and it was taken back in 2006. Somebody was desperate for money, I'll tell you that. All right. The year 2009 arrives, and that was the year the NYWC's current home, the NYWC Sportatorium, had opened. Let's see, what else I could recall that stood out. Oh, well, I ended up meeting Scott Barron at a show, at an NYWC event. I miss having him at the shows, folks. May 9th of that year, Jersey All Pro Wrestling was going to have a women's show at 4 o'clock and an evening show around 7:30 or 8. And you wouldn't believe this, folks. I know, as I've said before, we know indie wrestling shows are not prompt with opening the door. Because believe it or not, when 4 o'clock arrived, they still hadn't opened the door. And that woman's show felt kind of rushed. From there, 2009 was also the year where I began my No Punches Pulled interview series with many NYWC wrestlers past and present. Met Larry Legend. I met Erica Knack, who I don't know if she married Dan Moff yet. Maybe they're married by now. I wouldn't be surprised, because I know at one point they were engaged. I remember after an NYWC event in Port Jefferson, they had an after party at a place called Grumpy Jack's, which was right by Port Jefferson's LIRR station. Went with Scott Barron, Larry Legend. We were at a table with Eddie Guapo and All Money Is Legal. That was a good place to eat. I don't know if they're still in business or not. I remember one night it was, after a Jersey All Pro Wrestling event, Stephanie, who I met, I don't know when, it was at the show or on the way home I met her. And what happened was we get back to New York City, and some of us went into the McDonald's I didn't go inside, the McDonald's on 7th Avenue near Madison Square Garden. And she sees Christmas decorations hung up. And she says, there's Christmas decorations hung up, and it's not even Thanksgiving yet. Oh boy. Let me see. And also, Ring of Honor had Final Battle on my birthday that year, and it snowed, and it took a while to get home with the damn trains and stuff. The year 2010 was the year I bought the very first megaphone at an Ace Pro Wrestling event in Union City, New Jersey, and that very night, during a Fans Bring the Weapons match between William Wyeth and Tom Scanlon, Jorge Luis Rivera was in Wyeth's corner, and he actually swung his Singapore cane, and he wanted to get I don't know if he couldn't get a clear shot of Scanlon or not, but I almost got hit with that. That was right near me. Even on the DVD it shows that. Let me see. Also, what went on that during? Let me try to think other stuff here. Jack Sabbath's ICW returned after a 7-year absence, or should I say hibernation. Felt like yesterday they were never going to come back. And let's see, who else I could think of here. Other stuff going on and that happened that year. I didn't write too much down for the year 2010, folks. Oh well, here's one for you. Ace Pro Wrestling did a show in August of that 14th of that year, a match between Vince Steele and Andrew Tiny Johnson, where the loser would have to leave Ace. Tiny won the match, and Steele had to leave. And I think Tiny, right after the match, promoter Mike Morgan fired Tiny. And a few months later, Tiny appears at a show, and there was a guy with him, and the guy pushed Mike Morgan, and Morgan grabbed him, and I think Dan Moff attacked him as well. And security that was on hand for that one, they kept Tiny at bay while this poor guy got beat up by Morgan. And and at that point, I remember seeing referee Big Jose and John Harder, telling everybody to get out. But while I'm outside on Sip Street, security, they still have Tiny in their grasp, and they walk him down the stairs and out of the building, and one of them says, "Listen, man, you don't work here anymore. We gotta control the crowds. We got little kids running around. Gotta stop people from getting drunk." And yet they never served alcohol at the defunct Ace Arena in Union City, New Jersey. I mean, how could you say you got to stop people from getting drunk if they don't have any alcohol sold in the show? And the guy says, then the guy says to Tiny, "Listen, get some sleep. Where's your car?" And then Tiny went to his car and he walked away. And security were heading back inside. And one of them says, "Oh, if he comes back in half an hour, we'll call the cops." Well, that was something they never really, followed up on. So I guess trying so hard to make something look so real. Also at an ICW event, during a match between Dave DeMonto and the Amazing Red, I actually started an ICW chant with that crowd. And also, prior to the first and only Impact Cup, Pinky Sanchez and Maximus Sex Power come outside, and Maximus did his hip swivel right in front of me. And, okay, well, I think that's pretty much it for 2010. All right, the year 2011, January 22nd, the birth of Family Wrestling Entertainment, which had their debut show. January 28th, I saw my first Dragon Gate USA show, which was held at BB King's in Times Square, and I think that place is no longer has since closed down, unless I'm wrong. They had a good show. Let's see. Damn. Okay. Ring of Honor ran at the Manhattan Center on... Oh, it was Manhattan Center or the Hammerstein Ballroom. It was one of those places on March 19th of that year. And they started at 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon because WWE was in Madison Square Garden that night. That very show, Eddie Edwards won the world title from Roderick Strong to cap off a great show. We went to go eat at the TikTok Diner in Hold on. As stated, we went to TikTok Diner after the event ended, and Sean Connor, unofficial artist, who I mentioned in part one, he, to show you how much of a cheap ass, cheap fuck, cheap person, cheap skate this guy is. He said he didn't have much money on him, any money on him, or so he says. And all he ordered was toast. Not French toast that you could put in a frying pan. We're talking 2 slices of bread in a toaster that pop out. And the dude didn't even put in no fucking money to help pay for the check. Sadly, that place doesn't do separate checks, that TikTok Diner in New York City. Great place to eat, but they don't do separate checks. And, you know, since that time, I would refer to the guy as Toast. And let me tell you, this dude's got a really bad reputation, you know. He's been banished from many message boards over the years. And get this, he says he's too old school for Facebook. But yet, he's been on Twitter. He got on Twitter and had 4 different accounts banned. I mean, if you're too old school for Facebook, but why do you have Twitter? That boggles my mind, folks. All right. And the thing is that the dude claims he's in show business, but the thing is, the guy may know ROH and Evolve and Dragon Gate USA, but when you ask him about J.O.B., this is his exact reaction. Yeah, folks, he looks away with this puss on his face and gazes at the fucking stars instead of answering the goddamn question. Okay, now I got that out of the way. Okay, let's see. All right, May 14th, 2011, the second FWE show at St. Finn Bars in Brooklyn. And my brother and I were at this event, and surprisingly, right in front of me was Mike McNicholas and his mother, and they were very surprised and shocked about that I had the megaphone with me. One thing I forgot to mention, I ended up meeting at Aftermath on February 26th of that year. Donnie, long-haired guy who some of you fans may have noticed at NYWC shows. Great guy. Sadly, he's not on social media. Okay, let's see. That was May when I met Mike McNicholas. Didn't really meet him, but they were right in front of me. Mike and his mom. Okay. All right, July. Okay, July 28th, for the first time ever, NYWC ran a Thursday night show. Then my first ever triple header, my hat trick, as they say in hockey, as I saw 3 indie shows 3 nights in a row. A Thursday night show was NYWC at Port Jefferson. The following night, ICW in Queens, and FWE had their first show at Three-Legged Dog Studio, where one of the fans proposed to his girlfriend, and they have since gotten married, and they have a child together. All right. Let's see. Sadly, in the fall of 2011, the Ace Arena in Union City was shut down. Circumstances beyond their control, I understand. And they started doing shows in Wallington, New Jersey. That year, House of Glory started doing shows, as did Fighting Spirit Wrestling. And also, the very last NYWC event of the year was December 16th, 2011. My first time ever sitting next to Jessica. And if that wasn't enough, Ashling, Allison, and Victoria, of course, was the ringside photographer for a time at the shows. to my shock, they got me a birthday card which was signed by the three of them and most of the roster. I still have the card somewhere. I gotta go look for that. And they also had like a balloon, but unfortunately I had nothing to tie the balloon, and it ended up in the limbo for a time. And like to the rafters of the sportatorium, and I don't know how long it stayed up there, but it didn't come down that night, unfortunately. All right, we've reached the year 2012, and NYWC presented Sideshow on January 21st. And after the event ended, Jessica and I went to go eat in Buffalo Wild Wings, and on the TV they had a UFC event, and there was a guy with like really curly hair, and Jessica says, "Yay, Carlito!" to him, and just because of that hair. And also, during the main event of that show, I forgot who it was. Somebody bumped into the guardrail, and it bumped into my leg, and I stood up, and I was like hopping as the match went on, and yeah, and somebody in the crowd even said, "Can we get an ice pack for this guy?" By the time the show ended, my knee was pretty much, the pain had gone away. All right, in March of 2012, I saw Fight the World Wrestling for the first time, they did a Friday night show at the Elks Lodge, and the following night they were at Center Island Sports in Ronkonkoma. Both shows had appearances by the late Roddy Piper. April, what was the date? Yeah, April 14th, Jersey All Pro Wrestling had their, I think it was supposed to be their 12th anniversary. No. Hold on. It was like, I think they said it was their 14th year anniversary show, and entitled The Final Countdown, making everybody think that the JPW was going to say goodbye. And promoter Frank Idavia, who has since passed away, he was in the ring saying they were going to do a show like a month later, but they ended up canceling that because Frank said he promised himself that he would never run a show in that building in Rahway during the month of May again, because it gets hot in that building. April 20... Damn, was it April 21st? Yes, it was April 21st. The NYWC had a show at the Sportatorium titled Borrowed Time. My brother fell asleep that day, and I had to wake him up for him to come to the show. And I told him, "Hey, if you don't wake up, you're not going to be able to go to the show with me." And then he woke up, and he actually fell asleep on the train en route to the show. Very surprising. Can't remember too much for 2012, but in the year 2013, I went to Dragon Gate USA in the summer. I had the first ever Pro Wrestling Fans Chill Out. I wish they'd do another one where I forgot where we went to eat that night. Okay. Oh boy. In the year 2014 was the birth of Five Borough Wrestling, Valkyrie Women's Wrestling, and the return of Jersey All Pro Wrestling. And also I ended up meeting Christian, who of course he and his mom frequented FSW events. Also along the way met the Wrestling Snobs, Daniel and Joey. I missed seeing them at shows and missed watching their videos. And also that was the year where most of us were labeled The Crew by Mike McNicholas. The year 2015, ICW had returned, and there was a segment involving Matt Stryker, and I forgot who attacked him. Somebody attacked him, I think, unless I'm wrong. The Sandman came to his rescue, and it was Stryker's birthday, and the Sandman's music started playing, and I said to my megaphone, "Time for Impact Karaoke," and because it was ICW, of course, and they drank beer together. Also in 2015, the debuts of Tier 1 Wrestling, Wish they were still around. And Marvelous Pure Wrestle USA. I apologize if I mispronounced that word with a P incorrectly. I can't remember everything. But one thing I do remember, you're going to laugh at this, folks. Well, in 2015, after an NYWC event at the Sportatorium, we went out. Jessica and I went off to the. We went to Twisted Shamrock, which used to be by Babylon train station, and that's where the after parties used to take place. Funny thing is, they had karaoke there, but because the Rangers Pittsburgh Penguins game, I don't know if it was a playoff game or not, had yet to end. Well, the Rangers got a goal with about 3.8 seconds left in left, and Jessica was booing. But at the same token, I told her, that it's over. The Rangers are not going to get another goal that quickly. But right after the game ended, the karaoke got underway, and if that wasn't enough, Jessica, who was single at the time, she decided to give me so many lap dances. So I don't know if she drank too much or what. Because if she got too carried away, I would have grabbed her and we would have gone out the door. Thankfully, things didn't go that badly. In the year 2016, I was there for the debut of Bree Combination Wrestling. First went to WrestlePro for the first time, which had appearance by Dennis Haskins, Mr. Belding from Saved by the Bell, where Pat Buck and Kevin Matthews were victorious in their match. Kevin and Pat were dressed as Zach Morris and AC Slater, respectively, with those Bayside Tiger singlets on, complete with the headgear. And Belding pretty much invented WrestlePro karaoke, singing the theme from Saved by the Bell after their victory. Also, 2016, I was there for the debut of Battle Club Pro. I haven't been to their show since like 2018, I believe. Wow. Well, in the year 2017, I first ventured out to Pro Wrestling Magic in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. That summer, unfortunately, was the demise of my very first megaphone. The switch broke while it was still in the bag. But a month later, I got the current megaphone, which is bigger in size. The year 2018, I was there for the debuts of Innovative Pro Wrestling, Wrestlers Lab. I don't know if that was their first show I went to. Actually, there's a story to that. Wrestlers Lab, they had a Sunday show start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, honestly, I don't do Sunday shows unless it's not only time I do go to Sunday shows if it's not football season. But the problem is, why can't these Sunday shows start at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock? I mean, especially sometimes Creative Pro Wrestling, which I'll get to shortly, they sometimes do Sunday shows beginning at 5 p.m. I mean, come on, what's wrong with 2, 3 o'clock? But yeah, the story about Wrestlers Lab is after the show ended, I think, I forgot what time the show ended, but unfortunately the bus wasn't coming for a while, and sadly that bus never fucking showed up. And I remember telling Mike McNicholas, if we don't get a bus by 10 o'clock, I'm going to go take the other bus, which was there was another bus a few blocks down to take us back to New York City, and we took that. And because I got home after 1 o'clock in the morning, I called out from my job because I didn't want to go to work on very little sleep, knowing at the time I had to wake up at 3 a.m. to start work at 5:30. Also that year I went to my first and only Now You Create event, which was held in the Bronx. Sadly, that promotion's not around anymore. But also in 2018, Pinky Sanchez, for 2 months in a row, came out to the Kiss tune of I Was Made for Loving You. And Gail Esposito does Facebook Live videos at their shows, well, when she did, and she recorded most of us singing the song, and we basically invented karaoke magic at Pro Wrestling Magic. Okay, blah, 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 blah. And if that wasn't enough, we've now reached the year 2019, And you wouldn't believe this, folks. Right after the show must go on, Pro Wrestling Magic's The Show Must Go On came to an end. Sanchez said to me that he was touched by one of my videos where I mentioned my mother in. And he said he was touched by that. So that was a pretty much of a shocker. A month later, William, who's not on social media, was sitting right next to me for an ICW show at, I forgot that place in Queens. They were running there up until last year. And the show was titled Party and Bullshit. And throughout the night, some of us were chanting, some chanted party while William and I were yelling bullshit. You know, I mean, it was like dueling chants, you know, going party, bullshit, party, bullshit, party, bullshit. You know, it was and that was quite a show too. 2019 was also when I first saw my first ever Create a Pro show in Lynbrook, Long Island. Violence and Suffering I first went to for the first time. Was there for the debut of NAX, which was at the NYWC Sportatorium. Also my first Full Faith Wrestling, which was run by Mike Magnum. My first show seeing them live. Let me see. Hold that thought. We're almost done, folks. Oh, and also I went to my first ever, here's a weird excuse for a show, Pizza Party wrestling event, which was held in December, like 2 days after my birthday, in December of 2019. Well, that brings us to the present, which is 2020. And it was my first time seeing Extreme Annihilation Wrestling. It was their debut show. I was there for that. Hopefully, I can't wait for them to have more shows. Also, so far in 2020, even though there hasn't been too many shows I've gone to, Create a Pro Wrestling I went to, well, NYWC, of course, especially with the Psycho Circus. Well, you know, I probably, you know, for those who I did not mention along the way, I'm sorry and definitely apologize. For those I've met along the way, we're talking Shane Fair, Elliot, Pete Ryman, Erica, Lauren, Cheyenne. You know, basically, you all know who you are, and I do apologize for those who I did not mention, but yeah, this was quite a journey so far, and hopefully when wrestling shows get up and running again, I will be there'll be more stories to be told.